Adam Tatusco, how you doing? RR, how you doing, my friend? Can you guys let me know how the audio is coming in? Appreciate it. Okay, thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of movement in the markets. Joe Taz, thank you. Sean McDonald, how you doing? Judge Stroud, thank you. A couple first times. Adam, I don't think I've seen your name here before. Welcome aboard. Joel, welcome aboard. Judd, welcome aboard. Victor, sorry, Illustrato. Welcome aboard. First time I think I've seen your name also. One Life, I think also first time I've seen your name. So welcome aboard. Appreciate you guys being here. Adi, how you doing? Levias, palette of toilet paper and a small. Well, both of those are going to have some tremendous value. I'm pretty certain of that. Okay, so we'll be starting up shortly. Devin, how you doing? Ride the Curve, LC, the highest. Yeah, both of those are going to be worth something very, very. I don't want to say shortly or soon, but at some point in the near future, I think they'll both be worth quite a bit. So hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is the live stream, and a lot of stuff going on, huh? I mean, I gotta admit, I started on working on this live stream midweek last week, and so much has changed back then. I'm I hope a lot of what I did is still relative and still current. But anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. You guys are always a great bunch. Tang Ben Kwang, sorry. Welcome aboard. First time I've seen your name here. MTG buy, sell, shop. Welcome aboard. Sorry about that. First time I've seen you here also. But again, I appreciate it. I thank you guys for being here. And as always, if this is your first time here or you have not already done so, please do subscribe. Click on the bell to be notified on updates and give us a thumbs up. If you like what we do, we really do appreciate your support. And you can also find us on social media, silverbullion.com.sg. We are located in Singapore, Silver Bullion SG. Again, we are in Singapore. That's our Facebook. Silver Bullion PL Private Limited. That's for Twitter. And if you want just the audio versions, you can find us on bit.ly, SBTV iTunes, or SBTV Spotify. And lastly, do join our Crisis Tracker group. If you have that Telegram app, go ahead and join Crisis Tracker. That's where we will frequently update what's going on in economics or finance, gold, silver, things like that. So go ahead and join that group. Okay, so let's see what's first thing. I want to see what's on your own mind, all of your minds here. Um, let's see. Smash like, but okay, geez. Adam, yeah, I hope so. Robert Silver is fighting hard. That ratio is just getting wider and wider. That's for sure. Um, let's see. Some guys they're expecting silver to go lower. I'm thinking the ratio, it may stay where it is. But I do think it's going to snap back and significantly go back down below that 90 range. I'm thinking that that's really going to happen because as more guys start to see, what's going on and they move into gold, uh, gold price rise, but then, more guys, they'll jump into silver. More guys, meaning it's more within the range of more people. And being that the ratio is still high, those two things are in their favor, the high ratio and the price right now. So I think a lot of guys are going to pile into silver, but we'll see how that goes. Let's see. everyone have their umbrellas handy? Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the silver price. We'll go over to our website. Hang on. Sorry about that. Let me I think my stream was lagging a bit, but let's check the silver price. Okay, so going down. Okay, let's see. We're at 1697 currently. Silver 1734. So it's still going into some headwinds there. Sorry about the lag earlier. Um, that ratio will scroll down a bit. Right now we're looking at about 98, 97.9, 98. That's pretty significant, and absolutely, I would say a good time for silver right now. Looking at that ratio, I mean, it's always good to have gold as well, but it's hard to set aside not getting any silver right now with that ratio. So, both metals are good, but if you had to choose between one or the other, silver's looking pretty good right now. Lower price and ratio is just really, really out of whack right now. Um, okay. The other thing, do download our investor kit. It's free, and you can sign up for a storage account if you're thinking of maybe storing overseas. Singapore is probably one of the best jurisdictions to go into if you're going to store overseas for a lot of reasons. But it is a good time to keep silver and gold on you, definitely in your reach, and of course have some out of reach because you just don't know what's going to happen, especially with this virus going on. So taking a look at the Twitter feed, just want to take a look at a few of the things that I've bookmarked. We have Tavi Costa. Canadian dollar just broke down from a massive bearish pennant. Now add to it a housing bubble with record indebted Canadians, oil collapsing, BOC panicking, global economy faltering, next domino to fall, levered Canadian banks, and according to Tavi, he says it already started. If you guys don't follow Tavi, go ahead and follow him. I think he's one of the best guys to go out and follow. Okay. Hang on, let me just clean something up again. Hang on, sorry about that. Okay, so that was the Twitter feed. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so that was Tavi and what he had to say. So I guess looking at oil, I mean, maybe we'll just take a quick peek at oil and see what's the oil price right now. I hear it's been coming down. So, let's see where it's at. Crude 32.86. Yeah, it's been going down. Brent, same, going down. Gold looks like it went back over the 17. So, we're just seeing red all across the board pretty much. Um, Bonds, well, I'd stay away from bonds for now. Uh, okay, gold and silver doing pretty good. So back to that Twitter feed. What else is going on here? Okay, so then we have Catherine Austin Fitz tweeted out, dropping the oil price was what brought the Soviet Union to its knees in the 80s. Read Jim Norman's excellent book. The oil card is the U.S. playing the oil card again, while it uses the climate change op to promote electrification. Okay, we'll take a look at what she says there. Just want to get back to some of your comments real quick. Let's see. Okay, Joe Taz, I watched the video from iGold Advisor who says his charts are looking for a ratio of 138. I'm I'm not I'm not seeing that at all. Um, I'm not seeing that at all. For it to get to 138, you basically have to have people not doing anything with silver, acting like silver is the plague, and gold shooting up back up to 2,000 or all time highs. So, if gold's going to do that, silver certainly is going to follow. So 138, I don't see that. And Joe, it's just my opinion, but Anybody who uses charts to forecast gold and silver, I don't agree with it simply because my take on it is gold and silver prices are they are manipulated, and if you're gonna look at manipulated charts or data in charts, bad info going in is going to be bad info going out. So for that reason, I don't pay attention to charts regarding gold and silver, simply because I do believe it is manipulated. I think we have enough evidence already to say that it is manipulated. Okay, Gary Ramberg, great interview with Dr. Thank you. Uh, my takeaways from him, he takeaways from Dr. Faber. He first thing, I think he got some heat in the comments where he would say some things and then he would laugh, or chuckle or giggle, and some guys were giving him heat in the comment section about that. So the one takeaway or first takeaway is things are serious. Right now they are not good, and sometimes you just have to still be able to laugh, whether it's a defense mechanism or you simply don't believe anything out there. You have to still find, if you can, find some humor in things, because that's your that's your antidote in some ways to everything that's going on. So my first takeaway from Dr. Faber is, yes, things are bad, but do find still the good things in life. Appreciate the simple things in life. The other thing I would take away is really the pensions. A lot of unfunded pensions out there that are going to get hit, and the uncertainty of the virus and how people may not be seeing the severity of it. So I would probably take those two or three things away, and definitely how you want to have some type of store of value. You want to be able to do something with what you have. You don't want it to be uh, to be exposed to what's going on right now. So you want to take care of those things. Um, let's see. Full name. What company do you use if I wanted my stored gold shipped back to me? It would depend. What would happen is we would check with a few companies because they always have different rates, and then we would go ahead and find the best rate and relay that to you. So I can't give a hard and fast answer because there are it does vary. So, but it's a good question though. Let's see what else is out there. Let's see. Robert Kaplan, fully agree. You need to see some humor, even though things are serious, even if your heart feels heavy for humanity. And Robert, that's the truth. I mean, nobody likes this. Nobody wants to see people suffering or getting hurt or their finances get wiped out. Nobody. See, even I just chuckled right now. Nobody wants to see that. It's. I think it's more defense mechanism than anything else. Really. Okay. Let's see. Rolf Steiner, U.S. has made so many enemies the last few decades. Who does America have left as a friend? Israel with a friend like Israel. Um, that depends. I mean, you got people on both sides of that thought. I mean, some people would agree, some people would disagree. Um, has the U.S. made enemies? I think you got to look at it this way. Every country has to look out for their own people first, and the US being such a dominant force throughout the world, of course there are going to be people who don't disagree with it, but you you would want a president that looks out for your country. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Every country wants a leader that looks out for their country. That's just the way I see it, though. Let's see. George Kaiser, uh gold silver ratio will go over 150 before it ever. No, I don't think it'll. Like I said, I don't think it'll ever get there. If gold goes, 105, 110. I mean, you're gonna see silver slingshot already at that point. It would gold would have to basically go back to 2000, 1900, 2000, and silver would have to be at a snail's pace, and that's not going to happen because if gold hits at 2000, a lot of things are going to be going on, and guys are going to jump into silver as well. Um, but we'll see what happens. Mick Paul Craig Roberts does the same thing. He left. Well, he can. He's been around. He's seen it all. He has the right to laugh. Uh, Great man. You know, he's done quite a bit. Definitely done quite a bit. So taking a look back at that Twitter feed again, I think I wanted to take a look at a couple more articles there. SRS Rocco report Steve St. Angelo. Two of these guys, in fact, Tavi Costa, Steve St. Angelo, they're going to be coming up. We have interviews with them. Global contagion moves into high gear carnage in the Middle East markets. Steve goes on to say it begins. The world is finally waking up to the massive economic and financial threat of this global contagion, as reported by Zero Hedge. I guess this is the same article that Catherine Austin Fitz was referring to. According to the market, the article, Market Bloodbath, Middle East Stocks Crater, Kuwait halted, Aramco below IPO, Dow indicated down 500. It looks like global markets are going to experience more carnage on Monday, and yeah, we are seeing it. So good call. I wouldn't be surprised to see the WTIC, West Texas Intermediate, fall into the 30s tomorrow. And Steve, I think you're going to be right, my man. We're getting down into the low to mid 30s. Um, so let's see. He talks a little bit about the oil, and his analysis of the current situation suggests that we haven't even begun to see the carnage in the markets. I wouldn't be surprised to see the overall markets down 50% by summer. In fact, Steve, he sent a message to me last night on Skype, referring to exactly that, the 50% down by summer. And his forecast of the oil price to reach the low 30s may turn out to be way too conservative, and he's looking right again, in according to that Zero Hedge article. He goes on to say some analysts forecasting the possibilities that the oil price can move into the high teens. What would that do to the U.S. shale industry? If oil falls in the 20s, even the high teens, that would destroy a large part of the shale industry in just a matter of months or quarters. Warning, if you haven't been preparing for this global contagion, you better start. So that coming from Steve St. Angelo. And I guess on the humor side, Jim Bianco, he says, now here is some panic buying that we can all understand. Twinkies. And it was an interesting article because guys are starting to hoard Twinkies. If you can believe that as well. I mean, toilet paper, masks, canned foods, and this guy here, Twinkies. So we're taking anything we can, I guess, at this point. But I guess you may as well have some good snacks with you if it's ever gonna get to that point, right? Okay, taking a look at your questions and comments again. Uh, let's see, stacking up toilet paper for bartering can be. When it comes to bartering, everybody has different needs. You never know what they're going to want, so it's always good to have a variety of things. Dark Helmet, U.S. oil companies' costs are the highest in the world. It could be. I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't looked at the numbers, but it could be. And this is right now. This is the time where the U.S. is the number one oil producer and number one oil exporter. And if it's coming at that high cost, like he said, and if oil is going down, Saudi starts to open up the valves and release that oil for cheap money. Yes, U.S. oil industry is going to be in huge, huge, huge trouble. Huge trouble. Rolf Steiner, Russia wants to teach USA a lesson about stealing Syrian oil. Russians told the U.S. to get out of Syria, but U.S. is either a thief or a slow learner. Yeah, it kind of goes both ways because I do remember, back in the Obama administration, Obama did come out and say, I think it was in a radio address where he said something along the lines where in order to hurt the Russian economy, you have to bring down the price of oil, and that's what we did. And I remember it because it was something along those lines. Don't quote me on this, but something along those lines. And it kind of told me, what did he just say? That's what we did. So it kind of told me, hey, they're in the markets. They were already manipulating markets because of that phrase. That's what we did. How can you do that unless you're in the markets, right? So it kind of, one of the other things that kept opening up things further and further and further to see what's really going on. Um, let's see David Morgan on Crush the Street YouTube. He looks confused and downplaying virus and economic situation. Okay, I'll take a look at it. He also sent a message letting me know about his interview on art, not RT, was Ameritrade, and it was a pretty good interview that he had with Ameritrade. He looked sharp there, so I'll take a look at it though. Let's see what else you guys are saying out there. Uh, Faye, make your own hand sanitizer with vodka, glycerin, and pure essential oils of lavender, lemon, and tea tree. Better for your skin than the chemical soups commercial hand sanitizers are made of. Faye, I think you hit something on the head also. We're going to have to fall back to ourselves as far as resources. We're going to have to, do things for ourselves. We're going to have to create things on our own. We're going to have to make things on our own. And, it's getting to that point where we have to be self-reliant, self-sufficient, or at least we should have that in our back pockets. We're going to we're going to have to know how to do things. Um, you can't rely on stores and governments all the time. You got to always rely on yourself. Definitely don't rely on banks. That's one thing you don't want to rely on. Um, so getting back to this, what's going on in the Twitter feed? Just want to take a look at maybe one more trader, Irene. She says the market now sees the Fed cutting by 75 basis points in March. Yeah, I've been seeing more of that also. And Danielle DiMartino Booth, she says a record 2 million containers of seaborne shipping capacity was idled in late Feb. More than 1.5 million containers of capacity idled in 2009 at the height of the financial crisis. So she's saying that it's even worse right now. And we're told by Chinese officials that exports declined by 17% in Jan and Feb. I guess it's a number that you really can't can't believe. But taking a look at that 75 basis point rate cut coming up, what most people are thinking is going to happen, they see Fed cutting by 75 basis points in March, and that'll be at their meeting coming up. So traders now see a good chance that the Fed Reserve will take its benchmark borrowing rate down 3/4 of a point this month. Central Bank earlier this week announced a 50 basis point cut and is expected to do more when it meets March 17 and 18. Various regional Fed presidents said the market is not wrong to expect more central bank help if the coronavirus situation worsens. And, we just did a live stream last week about how, the Fed, um, lender of last resort, uh, trying to get full employment and price stability. So where that fits in with this, I'm not sure because to me this is more like a bailout. Helping people out. That doesn't do anything for price stability. Job wise, maybe keeping people employed, but if the supply chain breaks down, there's no product to sell. So what are you going to do at that point? And lender of last resort, well, they've been lending and lending and lending already. So I mean, I'm not seeing what the Fed is planning in on doing here except more more, let's just call it helicopter money. They're going to be giving out money. That's for sure. That is for sure. uh Patty, 30-year treasury just hit, so 30 years under one also now, right? I mean, 10 year treasury was under one last week, and so now 30 years as well. That's not well, it's not the best situation right now. There's a lot of things going on, and I don't know about you guys, but more and more this feels like you kind of feel like that frog in boiling water. Things are happening all around you, but you just can't. For a lot of people, they just can't put a finger on it, and they don't realize that aside from the virus going on, there's things that are going on with the banks, and by the time they understand this, going to be cooked. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You gotta understand what's going on with the banks, and be awake with what's going on in the banks. Uh, Bluesman, no corona here in Cambodia. Well, let's hope it stays that way, my friend. Let's really hope it stays that way. Uh, Victor, back up on your Twinkies. You're going to need them. Yeah, everybody needs a Twinkie, right? We all gotta have our Twinkies every now and then. Rolf, America needs its own regime change. Rolf, we're going to get it. U.S. they are going to get it. Um, it can't, whether it's with the elections or people taking to the streets or whatever it is, you know, especially this election, no matter who wins, uh, the U.S. is going to head into some deep, deep turmoil. No matter who wins. I mean, if Trump wins, I mean, we already see what's going on with the left, how they're going to, by all means necessary, try to get him out. And if the left wins, what are we looking at? Socialism. So or I mean, they're going to get U.S. will have regime change. That's for sure. And you got to hope for the best. Really, you got to hope for the best. Um, so let's see. Okay, hang on. Let me see what else is down here. Okay, cigarettes. Whole world is headed for turmoil. Yeah, that's for sure. Things aren't definitely not looking good right now. And even last week, what quietly came out was that repo market again. When you look at Friday, on Friday, 89 trillion, 89 trillion the Fed took in treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. Uh, and when you look at Thursday they took in another 87 billion. Okay, then you can move on down to Thursday also, or excuse me, was this twice on Thursday? Okay, different day. They took in 72, or excuse me, only 20 billion, and the repo market was asking for 72. So the Fed kind of said no to 50 billion of that. And then we go down a little bit earlier last week, 100 billion. 100 billion. Okay, we go down last week again, another 100 billion. Okay, 100 billion, and we'll just finish up by looking at Monday. So again, market wanted 70, Fed only gave them 20, and finally Monday we saw it was 53 billion. So that repo market is still hot, very, very hot. And it's something that you know last month Jerome Powell, sorry about that. Last month Jerome Powell came out and he did say that the Fed was going to be less active in the repo market with 100 billion. I mean, they can't get out of it unless they're going to change something. So this repo market liquidity, it's broke. It's severely broken. No doubt about that. But anyway, coming up for the month of March, we're going to have Steve St. Angelo, and the topic is going to be oil. So he'll talk about some of those things. The former blogger Kuz Johnson, he's going to be talking about Chinese gold, and then we're going to have Tavi Costa, who's going to be talking about macroeconomics and markets. So I don't think you guys are going to want to miss any of this. So be sure to subscribe and click on that bell to be notified when these interviews are released. And thumbs ups are always good as well. So taking a look at a few more of these comments before we get into the program part. Let's see. Not everyone loses, Victor Illustrado. Not everyone loses in the stock market crash. If you're smart, you'll know what to buy. Load up on silver and gold, hard assets and brass, cigarettes and booze, and don't forget your toilet paper. Yeah, Victor, you touched on something where you hear all these guys saying dry powder. You hear all these guys saying you want to have cash, and in the sequence of it, let's say stock markets go down. You want to have that cash. That's where some of that cash comes in handy. You want to go in and get the companies you think are going to come out on the other end okay. So the prices are down. Go ahead, get those companies, and then come out on the other end okay. You got them at a cheaper price. To be clear, this isn't any financial advice or anything like that. Okay, this is just an opinion here, and so that's one of the reasons why guys say have that cash. Uh, you're going to see good companies go down, and it may be your opportunity to get in. And then, like Victor said, gold, silver, but cash has an expiration date, and people aren't going to want it anymore. They're going to know that the value of it is just going down. It's fiat. There's nothing backing it. And then gold and silver. That's where having gold and silver comes in. So Victor, you hit that on the head. You want the cash for certain things, but cash will have an expiration date on it. So you definitely want to have some gold and silver out there for yourself as well. Let's see. George Kaiser, any chance of getting Martin Armstrong? We're trying. We're trying to get Martin on. Luke Groman, we've had Luke on before, and yeah, I think it's time to get him back. He's been putting out some amazing content. He's been making some good calls and amazing content. So yeah, we'll see what we can do with both Martin and Luke, for sure. Okay, Tiger Roll, toilet paper from. All right. Um, so I guess you're gonna look like one of those bears out in the forest, right? I mean, we're gonna find you leaning up against a tree. We're gonna know. Hey, we're gonna yell out, "Hey, Tiger Roll, is that you?" Okay. Let's see. Um, just own some coins and buy it when it's punched. Well, yeah, you definitely want to have coins. Uh, Bars as well. You want to have a good mix. In for all intents and purposes, you want to have a good mix, coins and bars, gold, silver. You definitely want to mix it up a bit. Let's see. Daryl Shun. No, I've never heard of him. Okay, we'll look him up. Ride the curve. Hug your loved ones. It's beginning to be a dangerous world. Absolutely. You gotta, like I said, when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of the people that are around you, and I mean, I'll just say it as a man, for all of us here who are men, our key role, we need to protect and provide. That's one of our key roles as men, as husbands, brothers, even uncles. It's one of our key roles, and we have to kind of start to positioning ourselves and getting in that mindset of how can I protect, the people I care about, and how can I provide for them, and it's our job. Frankly speaking, it's our job. It may be a bit of a throwback as to what I'm saying, but I think you older guys probably know what I'm saying is true. It's our role. It's what we need to do. So we got to start getting ourselves in that mindset. Um, Bond markets will blow up. That's been on the radar for quite a while. Greg Manarino, if you follow him, he's been saying this. Watch the bond market, watch the bond market. Michael Pento, same thing. In fact, we should try and get him on again. He's been saying the same things. Watch the bond market. It's going. That bond market is going. Bull Pony, we got to. We haven't reached out to him. Sorry about that. We haven't reached out to Bull Pony, not yet. Anyway, um, he's. I think Bull is making a good comeback. I mean, I think most of us who follow him, you know, there was a you know, he made some calls, and a lot of people, wanted to place blame on him. But, you know, still, no matter what anyone says, you always got to think for yourself still, so it's a bit unfair to go ahead and throw everything at Bo Polney. Um, so we'll probably get in touch with him and see if he'd like to come on. I know he's making a pretty good comeback, and he's been making some good calls, especially with Greg Hunter. So we keep an eye on these things also. So he's doing pretty good. He's doing pretty good. Um, let's see. Dow futures, yeah, Dow is getting hit. Oil is getting hit. Gold is doing okay. Silver is a bit sluggish right now. Um, yeah, Doug Casey, we've had him on. Um, you know, possibly Doug Casey possibly will see if we can get him on again. But for today, I want to go back and visit the coronavirus. We did this a few weeks back. I even labeled it a gray swan at that point because we have enough of these. Everyone's searching for that one black swan, but the truth of it is we have a lot of gray swans that are, all waiting to I guess get all together and form or morph into black swans. I mean, uh, you can't just call the coronavirus a black swan because, I mean, banking system has been in trouble for a while. Markets have been in trouble for a while. There's so many things that have been in trouble for a while. So, this is just another thing that goes into the mix, and you if you have enough of volatile ingredients, you get your debt bomb. You get all of these things to come together and blow up on you. So it's unfortunate, but new developments have come forward since then, and the question is just how might this virus affect people, countries, and their economies. In particular, I want to take a look at what central banks are doing, particularly the Fed, and then I want to share with you what Singapore is doing as far as the coronavirus, and the intent is to share with you what we're doing to give you some hope out there because I see the news. It's getting uh, it's reaching a panic frenzy out there. So hope to bring some calm to things. And I'm not saying Singapore does everything right and is the most perfect place on earth. I just want to share how life continues in a country, especially one that's densely populated in a CV-19 environment. So, but first, I want to get into the Fed and central banks. And we saw Jerome Powell come in and he talked about his emergency rate cut.
Good morning, everyone. Um, Earlier today, the Federal Open Market Committee announced a 0.5 percentage point reduction in the target range for the federal funds rate, bringing that range to 1 to 1.25%. My colleagues and I took this action to help the U.S. economy keep strong.
Jerome Powell, I had to cut it there, but keep strong. Okay, so Jerome Powell said they cut rates 0.5%. Okay, I think we're all aware of that. The target range of the Fed funds rate is now 1 to 1.25%. And why? According to Jerome Powell, it's to keep the economy strong. And I think most of you know already that whenever there's a recession, the Fed typically needs 4 to 5% of rate cuts. Well, they haven't even called a recession yet, and we're already down to 1. So we are heading into uncharted waters without a doubt. And so what I want to do is take a look at, again, what, hang on, sorry about that. I want to take a look at what he means when he says keep the economy strong, because let's not forget the U.S. is in the best economy ever, right? This is what we're being told. Sometimes we're in the best economy ever, or to tone it down, best economy relative to other countries. We are still near all-time highs, okay? But emergency rate cut. Repo market, as I just showed you, oversubscribed despite the Fed taking in at times 100 billion a day. again, just as I showed you. And going back, you can find news articles on things like where JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon calling their balance sheet a fortress, but then saying they're going to go to the discount window, take away the stigma of going to the discount window, right? But we got a fortress balance sheet. Anyway, Jamie, get better. I know you had heart procedure out there, so get better. And all of these things, and the Fed then has to come in and give emergency rate cuts. So, these are just some of the things going on in America's best economy ever. But I do want to go back and take a look at a couple things that Jamie Dimon had said prior. Okay, he used the word fortress balance sheet in J.P. Morgan's annual report, and he's also going to now use the Fed's discount window. Okay, best economy ever. J.P. Morgan said they had so much of billions profits that came out not too long ago. But he's going to use the discount window, even though he has a fortress balance sheet. And I'll show you. This is a report came out from JP Morgan. So I'll just let this thing load for a while. It takes a while. And this is a report, and he used that word fortress a few times in this report, and I just want to show you it when it loads, where he used the word fortress and in what context he used the word fortress. So this is their annual report from back in 2018. And so what I'll do is I'll look for the word fortress. Okay. And we see it here. We grew core loans by 7%, increased deposits in total by 3%, and generally grew market share across our businesses, all while maintaining credit discipline and the fortress balance sheet. Let's take a look at another place. Let's see. The firm's fortress balance sheet philosophy focuses on risk-adjusted return, strong capital, and robust liquidity. Fortress balance sheet. Let's take a look at another place where he used it. At every step along the way, we have been building with patience, selecting the best clients, and maintaining our fortress principles. He likes that word fortress, right? And again, to be a fortress company, we believe that you also need to have strong, properly diversified earnings and margins. So these are a few places where he's gone on to use that word fortress. And even though he has that fortress balance sheet, he comes out and he says that well, I'll just read the title here. JP Morgan gets busy in repo lending after regulatory nod. CFO. JP Morgan Chase and Company is putting more cash in overnight lending markets and holding less for a rainy day after discussing the matter with regulators, the bank's finance chief said. This was last week, I believe. It's heading to the discount window, the Federal Reserve's funding source of last resort. They sure do have a whole lot of last resort places, right? This in an effort to help diminish the reputational stain attached to its use and promote alternative funding options in the wake of last year's frightening bout of volatility in the money markets. JP Morgan executives have complained that liquidity and capital requirements prevented the bank from financing overnight loans, but discussions with regulators, in other words, they're making a plan, made the bank believe it has more flexibility. Okay, so as a result, JP Morgan has decided it can hold less cash for its resolution plan and instead factor in the possibility that it would use the Fed's emergency lending facility discount window. We think that this is an important step for us to take to help break the stigma here, and it's also consistent with the public comments from the Fed. We got to go back to last month. Remember, Jay Powell was saying the Fed is going to lessen their activity in the repo markets, and I guess this is where J.P. Morgan feels they can they can fill the role. CEO Jamie Dimon told the conference that the bank had been keeping about 150 billion of extra cash. Yeah, we all have a lot of extra cash like that, right? In its account at the Fed, and is reducing that number by 50 billion to 60 billion, freeing up the money for the repo market. We are going to hit the discount window to test the facility for borrowing cash from the Fed against the range of securities and loans. Okay, so what do we make of this? So JP Morgan wants to lend money in the repo market, and Diamond says that he spoke to regulators. I read it as Diamond had a or spoke to a regulator, and let's just randomly call this regulator Powell. Okay, so spoke to this regulator named Powell. Let's just say, and he did say, and hang on, let's call him Paul as an example. And he spoke about this idea where, hey, Jamie Dimon goes to the discount window. Can I do this? Is it legal? I'm thinking about lending in the repo market. I just need to check if this regulator, Mr. Regulator Powell, says it's okay. And apparently it was. So he did say the Fed was going to be less involved in the repo market. So what is this all about? What is this? It seems like they're trading places in some ways, right? So what is this discount window? What is it all about? Okay. So the discount window helps to relieve liquidity strains for individual depository institutions for the banking system as a whole by providing a reliable backup source of funding. Now, this is coming straight from the Fed itself, okay? Much of the statutory framework that governs lending to depository institutions is contained in Section 10B of the Federal Reserve Act. The general policies that govern discount window lending are set forth in the Federal Reserve's regulator. There you go, right? As described in more detail below, depository institutions have access to three types of discount window credit: primary credit, secondary credit, and seasonal credit. All discount window loans must be collateralized to the satisfaction of the lending reserve bank. Additional information can be found at that website below. So what is this collateral? We know in the repo market, we have treasuries and we have mortgage-backed securities. So what about this discount window? What are the types of collateral here? Let me make this larger. Okay. Types of collateral: obligations of the Treasury, obligations of government agencies and government-sponsored enterprises, obligations of states or political subdivisions of the U.S. These are like your city and counties and things like that. Collateralized mortgage obligations. So repo market is taking asset-backed mortgage securities. Here they're taking collateralized mortgage obligations. They're also taking asset-backed securities, corporate bonds, money market instruments, residential real estate loans, commercial, industrial, or agricultural loans, commercial real estate loans, consumer loans. That is a very, very broad, very broad topic. Consumer loans, that could be almost anything. Consumer loans. So these are what they are going to head to the discount window with. So what does it mean? Are they using up a lot of their treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, and they have different types of these other things now, which they can't use in the repo market? So they're going to come here to the discount window. I mean, what does it mean, right? So that's the collateral for it. So again, what is this discount window? And here's a pretty good explanation again of it. The Federal Reserve discount window is how the central bank lends money to its member banks. It's also called the Fed's use of credit. Banks take out these overnight loans to make sure they can meet the reserve requirement when they close each night. Since 1980, any bank, including foreign ones, can borrow at the Fed's discount window. So here we go. Those three types: primary, secondary, and seasonal. Primary credit is a very short term basis to institutions that are generally in good financial health. And this is kind of like what the repo market is, right? Very, very short term. Very short term. So here, primary credit is again very short term. If an institution does not meet the eligibility requirements for primary credit, it can try for secondary credit, which has a slightly higher interest rate. The Fed also offers seasonal credit to smaller institutions, help them make loans to farmers, students, resorts, and other seasonal borrowers. The borrowing banks must post collateral to the Fed in return for the loan. Such collaterals can include, well, we went over those, what the collateral is. And they do have different interest rates that they do carry in the discount window. So the Fed has many other tools that it uses to expand and constrict bank lending. Its most heavily used tool is open market operations, which we see when Jerome Powell comes out and says we're cutting rates or we're not going to change rates. They do this to expand lending. It buys the bank's securities. It replaces them with credit on the bank's balance sheet. This gives the bank more money to lend. The banks are always been given more money to lend, but we don't see it right now. To constrict lending, the Fed purchases the bank's cash with securities. The bank doesn't have a choice when the Fed wants to sell securities. During a financial crisis, the Fed created many other innovative monetary tools. And the history of this discount window was established in 1913 when the Y2K scare came up. Discount window. 9/11 attacks, discount window. And I think they even went on, 2008 financial crisis. The Fed used the discount window to pump extra liquidity into the market. And these are the current discount window rates. So primary credit, 1.75. Secondary, as mentioned, it's a little bit higher. Seasonal, 1.6. And right now, the current Fed funds rate is 1 to 1.25%. So that's where we're at with this whole JP Morgan and the discount window thing, right? Seems kind of odd though. Fortress balance sheet, um, all of these other things that he's saying, it's just not making sense right now. Anyway, just want to take a look at some of the comments here. Let's see. Don't worry, we're gonna be on the moon by 2020. Okay. Let's see. Pastor of Carcosa, how you doing? The Fed will get their fiat print as much as they can and hope to trap everyone in it as well. Don't fall for it. Saving real assets. Good advice. Um, Good advice. That's the thing. You got to have one foot in the system. I mean, it's the system we're in. You got to have one foot in it, but your other foot you can take out of that system and do what you need to do to take care and prepare of whatever fiat event might happen, whatever's going on. Let's say with global supply chains and things like that, because you're going to have to um, think ahead, and you're going to have to think ahead. And it's a little bit sad, but we are going to have to think a little bit more on the side of worst case scenario type of, or have that type of thinking, because if you bought a little bit too much toilet paper, hey, it's okay. You will use it. I promise you're going to use it, but don't hoard. I mean, your neighbors got to do their thing also, right? But get your food. Make sure you get some food and stuff, and your water, whatever it is. I mean, just prepare. You will always need water. You will always need that food. Besides, if you buy canned good today, maybe it costs you $5. Next year, it might cost you $6 because of inflation. So you made a good investment, right? I mean, you saved yourself some money there. So, do what you need to do. But then again, um, as best you can, try to, I mean, think of yourself, your family, and whatnot. But think of the other guys too. I mean, they put on their pants the same way as you do each morning. They need to look out for their families as well. And then I think if you can build that spirit of community, I promise you, that's what's going to help help get through this a lot easier. You got to have that community spirit, So, you know, you hoard things, people don't like you too much. You share things, people like you, and you are going to want to be liked. That's for sure. You are going to want to be a very likable person when these things happen, and you're going to want to be, seen as someone that people can depend on. It's just that's just the way it is. Things may change, and you want to make sure again you have a lot of these things taken care of. But anyway, that's the current. This is the current rates, interest rates. If let's say J.P. Morgan does go to the discount window, that's what they're looking at, despite their fortress balance sheet. The other thing with that's kind of interesting when I was looking into this was I want to go back a year ago because somebody went all in on China and they may be having a bit of a rough time now, and maybe this is another reason why they're going to that discount window. But I want to show you a clip of what Jamie Dimon said last year.
How worried are you on China? How should we look at China, and what kind of business do you want to do in China?
So China, first of all, the trade issues are real. They need to be resolved. They need to be resolved across all these issues. So I think the administration
Will
doing the right.
Will they be resolved?
We expect so. We think both parties want it, but they're complex. They're talking about having hundreds of pages of memorandums of understanding so far. If it doesn't get resolved, I think it's a reasonable thing for people in the markets to be worried about. China will be a fully developed nation in 30 years. Its economy is going to be as big as the United States, but it still has a tough road. They're very smart, but they don't have enough food, water, and energy. They have huge corruption. They don't have open, transparent. I mean, the markets you have here in terms of research and capability and knowledge and rule of law and board of directors, you don't have all that there yet. So it's not a criticism. They're going to have a way to go. So they'll grow now, but there'll be times in the future, 5 years out, where there will be real bumps in the road in China.
Okay, so what does that mean? That as an investor in China, you kind of slow down for 4 or 5 years until you see the lay of the land, or do you just go all in to get market share?
So we're all in.
Yep.
And so we're not slowing down. People are slowing down because of trade, not because of what I just said. But my point is that when they do have problems, they might be building up huge imbalances in the financial system. That will come home to roost one day. Right now, they can handle it. China's not like the rest of our countries. They can macro manage. They can simply tell the fiscal people, tell the monetary people, tell the companies what they need to do, who they need to hire. But that won't always be true. And so one day, these imbalances may cause a disruption. Call it a recession.
But financial crisis kind of disruption?
It could be. If in America we had a financial crisis, and markets panic. They can handle that today, but I'm saying in 5 or 7 years, they have to be careful about building up imbalances. Because the bigger the markets get, the less they can control all the things that they would want to control to stop that from happening. So I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but we're so used to China growing at 6%, 7%, that the second they don't, I think the world will react probably more scared than they should be.
Kind of prophetic words, what he was saying there. But he went all in on China. He basically sounds like he bet the farm on China and did not see this coming. None of us did. But J.P. Morgan thought they had a sure thing in China because of the way China's government is structured. I mean, I think we all know how it is. Basically, government is going to say jump and people are going to say how high. This time, there's a bit of a problem with the C virus going around. The people can't jump. They're resting. So government's going to say jump. People are home resting. So there's going to be a problem. So JP Morgan went all in, and their investments and investors may be feeling the ills of the C virus. Discount window, right? Discount window. So let's go ahead and take a look at what more of Powell, what he had to say.
At the time of our FOMC meeting in January, prospects for continued economic growth remained favorable, and we judged that monetary policy was well positioned to support that outlook. Since then, the spread of the coronavirus has brought new challenges and risks. The virus has afflicted many communities around the world, and our thoughts and prayers go out to those who've been harmed. The outbreak has also disrupted economic activity in many countries and has prompted significant movements in financial markets. The virus and the measures that are being taken to contain it will surely weigh on economic activity, both here and abroad, for some time. We are beginning to see the effects on the tourism and travel industries, and we are hearing concerns from industries that rely on global supply chains.
Okay. So Powell says the C virus has brought new challenges and risks. And virus afflicted many communities around the world, disrupted economic activity in many countries, and prompted significant movements in financial markets. I guess he did not want to say downward movements. He just chose to say significant movements. And yeah, as one of you folks mentioned, it's that purple tie. Uh, Purple tie just seems to bring out maybe his alter ego. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but that purple tie just kind of gets him to not be fully, completely honest and transparent. So let's make sure we give Jerome Powell a different colored tie for Christmas this year, right? Maybe we can see a better Jerome Powell. Um, so that's what he's saying. And the virus and the measures that are being taken to contain it will surely weigh on economic activity, both in the U.S. and abroad. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. And we're beginning to see the effects on the tourism and travel industry. And we're hearing concerns from industries that do rely on global supply chains. So I just want to take a look at some of these airlines concern. This came out a few weeks ago. This is from Channel News Asia, where the virus could mean US 5 billion in airline losses, according to a UN agency. I think 5 billion may be on a bit on the conservative side. The new coronavirus outbreak could mean a reduction of 4 to 5 billion in worldwide airline revenue, according to this organization. And this is about a little bit less than a month ago. So the UN agency reported that 70 airlines have canceled all international flights in and out of China, and 50 others have reduced their operations. So again, in revisiting this whole coronavirus topic here, or emergency, if some people want to call it that, this was about a month ago. And these, I don't know the numbers. I wish I had time to go and get them for you, but I'm sure these numbers have changed and they are upward. So this is how the virus is starting to affect things. So preliminary estimates show that this has meant a reduction of nearly 20 million passengers compared to expectations the first quarter of 2020. The figure equates to potential of lost revenue of up to about 5 billion. And I just wanted to bring this out because this was what they were expecting at that time. Italy wasn't in the state that it's in now. Uh, Iran wasn't in the state that it's in now. I think even South Korea wasn't even in the state that it's in now. So these things are all starting to unfold, and it is worse than what people were thinking.
Travel stocks among the hardest hit on coronavirus concerns. Major airlines saw their stocks fall sharply yesterday. United, in fact, withdrew its full year 2020 guidance due to all the uncertainty. Phil LeBeau joins us now with more. Phil.
Joe, not a surprise that United did this, given the fact that it's seen a 100% drop in demand when it comes to flights to China. No surprise there. They've canceled all their flights there. They're also seeing a 75% drop in demand for their trans-Pacific flights. So as a result, they pulled their guidance for all of 2020, kept it for the first quarter, but for the rest of the year, they've pulled it until they see what happens, especially as concerns about coronavirus spreading to parts of Italy or other parts of Europe. That has people saying, okay, what's going to be the potential impact in terms of flights, transatlantic flights, those flights from the U.S. over to Europe, vice versa. When you take a look at the U.S. carriers and their exposure to Europe, keep in mind that this is an area that generates anywhere between 11 and 17% of the annual revenue for the big three U.S. carriers, American, Delta, and United. Also, when you look at Europe, some of the European carriers are already feeling an impact. Ryanair under pressure. Why is Ryanair under pressure? 20% of its seats are to Italy. And finally, this is a case yesterday, guys, where we saw the domestic-oriented stocks, airline stocks, they also got hit. Didn't matter the fact that most of their flights are here in the U.S. Southwest, JetBlue, Spirit, they were all under pressure yesterday, anywhere between 6 and 10%. Let's see what these stocks do today, already indicating that there will be a bit of a bounce back.
Okay, so Airlines, it's going to get hit. Air travel is going to get hit. Hotels are going to get hit. Um, Events, things like that, tourist destinations, all going to get hit. Um, Besides the supply chain, supply chains are going to get hit as well. So, um, this, I think, you know, you hear some guys saying it's just the flu. It's just the flu. Well, the flu didn't do this to the supply chains. Flu didn't do this to the markets. So it's more than the flu. I mean, if you want to just equate the flu with health, that's one half of it. But there's no you got to explain the markets. If you the flu cannot explain the markets. A global pandemic that can explain the markets. So it's not just the flu. It's a whole lot more than the flu going on. But as one of you guys mentioned, the markets are the scapegoat to this. Could be. I mean, you could be definitely could be. So, you know, we did have Dr. Mark Faber on uh, last week, and he did have some things to say about the tourist industry.
Well, there are many factors that will impact this relatively unpleasant picture. But I think that if you look at some indicators that have some bearing, like Chinese industrial production or air travel or railroad travel or even road travel in China, and if you look at, say, tourist arrivals in Hong Kong, they've collapsed from approximately daily arrivals of 250,000 to 3,000 at the present time. The airport is like a ghost town. I mean, if you ever want to show your children what a ghost town looks like, that still has some life, then take them to the Hong Kong airport. It's no longer crowded by the demonstrators, but it's empty. And so are the shopping malls and the restaurants and the hotels. The hotels in Hong Kong that traditionally have an occupancy rate of around 90%, they have now an occupancy rate in single digits. In other words, below 10%.
Okay, so Paul talking about the airport. He's talking about the hotels. It's the rates are all down. Occupancies are all down, and it's it, it's we're gonna have to get through this. Despite all of these things coming our way, we are going to have to get through this. So taking a look at some of your comments again. Anyone long just got nuked. Rolf Steiner. Um, yeah, yeah, and it may be that way for a while. But the Fed, they're going to have to do some things to get back, and I mean they're going to have to do some things to try and help things to come back, or to at least stabilize them, because things are really gonna unwind, and they are going to it's looking like they're going to fall apart. Ralph Steiner 401ks are just going to get slammed. Exactly, Ralph Steiner. You guys have been, if you've been following me on this live stream, I've been saying talk to someone about your 401k. In fact, I can tell you, clients we have, a lot of them use this company called New Direction. I'm not endorsing New Direction. I'm just saying that clients we have use this company, New Direction, and we have no complaints from the clients. We have no complaints from New Direction. So if you have a 401k, you definitely want to go ahead and Google these guys. Hang on, let me just type it in here. New Direction self-directed IRA. It should have read. Go ahead and Google them. New Direction self-directed IRA. At least talk to them, because, like I said, everyone's been enjoying the ride up, especially with the 401k. Average Joe has been doing very well with this 401k. I've been saying, when this market goes down, your 401k is going to get hit, and you want to perhaps really talk to someone about maybe getting some of those chips off the table if you can, rolling it over into a self-directed IRA. things like a precious metals IRA where you can go ahead and get some gold, get some silver, where you now have a hard asset instead of just fiat. 401ks, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, things like that. You can get it out of that because all those things are getting hit right now. And you can go roll it over into things like a precious metals IRA and find some safety, find some shelter in there because, like I say, when this market goes down, 401k is going to go down too. And that's what you're going to need. You're going to depend on that. And, if you're at an older age, you may not have time to recuperate the 401k and build it back up. So talk to someone, New Direction, talk to them. Not endorsing them. Like I say, I just know that we have clients that use them. And so far, everything's been okay with them. No complaints. No complaints. Let's see. Get yourself protected with chaga mushrooms. Somebody's been watching Cliff High, I guess, right? I think he's talking about those chaga mushrooms quite a bit. Let's see. Ralph Steiner, George Carlin told you they're coming for your retirement money so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. It's hard to say. You got to just look out for yourself. You need to do what you need to do. And going back to that Dr. Faber interview, he also had this to say.
I happen to have built some hotels in Vietnam with my partners. Actually, they built it and I was a partner. But in one hotel, the Four Seasons in Vietnam, in Hoi An, I still have some houses, some villas. And when I'm not there, we let them out. They are let out by the management company Four Seasons. I can see what the occupancy rate is. It's began to go down a year ago. And now it's quite bad, although I have to tell you that if you talk about coronavirus, you're probably better off in a villa on the beach in Vietnam than sitting in a large city.
And even industries you might not expect, they're also getting hit by this virus and even the supply chains. China's lipstick sales suffer as masks become mandatory. Basically, what this article is saying is because people now have to wear masks, they're not using things like lipstick. And so the lipstick industry is taking a hit. So even places you would not expect are getting hit or feeling the effects of this coronavirus. I mean, lipstick we wouldn't think much of lipstick, but I guess on the other hand, maybe makeup. I mean, mascara and eyeshadow might be doing pretty well, I guess, if we look at lipstick going down. But it just goes to say we don't know what industries are going to get hit, and we don't know how severely they're going to get hit. And the thing with China, what leaves China are cargo ships. A lot of times finished products, consumer goods. What goes into China are raw materials. And both of these indices are down. The Harpex container shipping is going down. And when you look at Baltic Dry Index, right now it's at a point where it's even worse than 2007, 2008, 2009. So the shipping numbers are kind of telling a story right now. Mapotasi, how you doing? I saw you sneaking one in there. Hope everything's okay. Let's see more comments here. The LC TD Ameritrade message and trading account. Important information. Increased mortgage requirements for leverage exchange traded funds, leverage, inverse, and commodity. Yeah, so I guess we're seeing that. LC, thanks for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see what else here. Yeah, lower foot traffic. That's for sure. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Lynette Zhang from ITM Trading was crying because she knows the middle class will lose everything. She I believe she has a good heart. I believe she's also looking out for the middle guy. The middle guy, the little guy, the average Joe. Same here. Average Joes, we feel for you. I'm an average Joe myself. And then we also have the people who are wealthy. Um, Regardless of monetary status, we're all people. We all have families, right? Average Joe, things like 401k, like I say, you want to make sure that thing is protected. You need to do something about it. I'm ordering you to do something about it. You need to do something about it. The wealthy people, you know, if you have the ability to diversify your assets, diversify locations of your assets, you should seriously think about diversifying the locations of your assets, and meaning things like, if you have silver and gold, you know, keep some on hand, keep some near you, but you should keep some out of your jurisdiction. And the reason is, you need your life's work to be safe. You need to have some with you, but you need it to be safe as well. Having it in a different jurisdiction, let's say if you're in the states is states is really, it's not looking too good right now. They're very slow to react. Surprisingly slow to react. Where, possibly will really take a hit, and for those reasons, as an example, you may want to keep some things outside of the states for now, because you don't know where they're going to go, what measures they're going to take. But you put it in a different jurisdiction that is a bit safer. Baby's gone through the virus, has contained. They've built up some experience and knowledge, so they're able to manage it a bit better. That's just one example. But for wealthy guys, definitely you want to consider diversifying assets, diversifying location of your assets. Um, Average Joes, you also want to diversify as well. But main thing, you need to make sure your pensions, your 401ks, your homes, your houses, your food, things like that, all taken care of. In fact, all of us, we need to make sure. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, it doesn't matter. Average Joe, very wealthy, still we're people, right? It's just that sometimes we may have more pressing needs, than some people. Sometimes we may have a different circumstance than our neighbor. That's all I'm saying. There's no right, no wrong. No one's any better than the next guy. But we need to do certain things to um to take care of our individual circumstance. So Lynette Zhang, she's right. You really feel for the middle class, especially the ones who have not woken up yet. It's it's amazing how you know not to put anyone down, but how I think we all hear these things, but we don't all react on it. Or we don't all. We have a different threshold. Some guys are going to react sooner than others. Some guys will never react. But as I say all the time, at least for us, at least for you, you need to be a blessing and not a burden. Try your best to be that blessing and not that burden when things really start to fall apart. People are going to be looking for leaders, for strong people, for someone that can give them hope. They're going to be looking for that, and just try to be that person if you can, as much as you can. Um, let's see. Built for tough. Unfortunately, most of us watching, seeing this coming. Yeah, a lot of times it is, preaching to the choir, as they say. Uh, you can just hope for those one or two guys to walk in the door and sit down and have a seat and take a listen. But more important than them listening to me, they're looking at your comments. I promise you, they are looking at your comments and seeing what everyone else is saying. And when they see what you guys are saying, that's what's going to drive them to try and be a bit more open minded and try to understand. So I mean, I'll just say it. I'm just a vehicle right now. You guys, you folks are really the stars of this show. People are going to see what you're saying, and you guys are going to be the ones that really help people make a decision. So comments are hugely important, and I appreciate it if the comments are decent comments, because I tell you, I promise you, guys are watching. They're not necessarily watching or listening to me They're looking at your comments and seeing what you guys are saying. You folks are going to be the ones to help people or help convince them. So you guys really, you have a much more important role to play than I play. I'm just the vehicle right now. You folks are really the guys who can make a difference for yourselves, for your families, for your neighbors, for your friends, for the guys who are just starting to wake up. Guys who are just starting to wake up to these things. Um, so anyway, Powell did go on to say another thing, which I did have a clip of, so I'll just roll that real quick for you guys.
The magnitude and persistence of the overall effects on the economy, however, remain highly uncertain, and the situation remains a fluid one. Against this background, the committee judged that the risks to the U.S. outlook have changed materially. In response, we have eased the stance of monetary policy to provide some more support to the economy. Of course, the ultimate solutions to this challenge will come from others, particularly health professionals. We can and will do our part, however, to keep the U.S. economy strong as we meet this challenge. As always, our actions are guided by our congressional mandate to promote maximum employment and price stability. In the weeks and months ahead, we will continue to closely monitor developments and their implications for the economic outlook, and we will use our tools and act as appropriate to support the economy.
Okay, so Powell says the efforts of the virus remain highly uncertain and the situation remains a fluid one. The risk to the U.S. outlook has changed materially. And in response, we have eased the stance of monetary policy to provide some more support to the economy. We will use our tools and act as appropriate to support the economy. And that leads into this, which I tell you what, things are just opening up in crazy land at this point. Rosengren says the Fed should consider a wider range of assets. For instance, remember the repo market, they can only take a few types of assets. Discount window, they can only take a few types of collateral as well. Fed mandate, they're not allowed to go into the market and buy individual stocks. I believe they cannot do that. So here we go. Fed President of Boston, Eric Rosengren, said policymakers should be allowed to buy a broader range of assets if they lack sufficient ammunition to fight off a recession with interest rate cuts and bond purchases. With 10-year Treasury yield notes already at record lows and going lower, Rosengren said typical QE may not work as it did during the 2008 financial crisis. Therefore, the Fed may need the flexibility enjoyed by policymakers in Europe and Japan. We should allow central banks to purchase a broader range of securities or assets, Rosengren said. Such a policy, however, would require a change in the Federal Reserve Act. U.S. law currently limits purchases to any obligation which is the direct obligation of or fully guaranteed as to principal and interest by any agency of the U.S. That translates to buying U.S. government and agency debt and mortgages issued by federal housing agents. The Fed has traditionally maintained a strong internal resistance to expanding its purchases beyond Treasury securities because such activities are essentially credit allocation and leave the central bank vulnerable to criticism of favoritism if it's investing in the bonds or stocks of specified companies. New Deal progressives are not going to tolerate this unless the employment rate has risen sharply. So during the financial crisis, the Fed bought agency-backed mortgage securities to help revive the markets for housing debt. As of March 4th, the Fed holds $1.37 trillion of mortgage securities. I tell you what, I just want to go back to this part here. The Fed has traditionally maintained a strong internal resistance to expanding its purchases beyond Treasury securities, meaning they're only going to stay in that area. They're not going to go beyond it because such activities are essentially credit allocation and leave the central bank vulnerable to criticism of favoritism of its investing in the bonds or stocks of U.S. companies. The way I think most people would read this is, again, the Fed is going to throw money at the C virus. Problem is, neither the Fed nor any other central bank, for that matter, has ever fixed anything since 2008. Why would anyone believe that central banks can fix things now? Considering we still have the lingering effects of 2008 and added to it, C virus. I don't think even the Fed thinks they can save the economy. They are now thinking, as I showed you here, of breaking the rules or getting a new mandate or different. Congress may need to approve them to do these things. Don't know what it is, but they're going to change. They want to go in and buy stocks, bonds, as I just showed you here. If so, expect a consolidation of companies along with winners and losers as chosen by the Fed and the government. In unison, let's all say crony, crony, crony capitalism. That's what's going on, or what they're looking at. Fed is going to choose, or Fed and the government in combination. If this happens, they're going to choose which companies make it, which companies don't. We're going to be limited to just a few brands, a few products. I mean, who knows? We basically will be limited in choice, and that reeks how socialist economies and countries, how they look. You only get certain brands to choose from. Anyway, let's see. Moritz Sandritter, don't store gold abroad, will be confiscated. Gotta disagree with you, my friend. If I were still living in the States, I'm in Singapore right now. If I were still living in the States, I tell you what, I would be in that same train of thought. Keep it with me. I don't want to send it anywhere. Whatever. I would 100% be with you there. But after being in Singapore since 2005 and learning how things operate here, learning how the government works, completely safe. If I were in the States now, I would have no problem putting things in Singapore, because I know how it works. It's like some people, they'll fly down from the States, from Europe. They'll fly down to our shop. They'll go and visit our vault. And they're here for just 2, 3 days, whatever it is. We give them a vault tour. Gladly give them a vault tour because we want them to see how we operate. I challenge you to ask any other vault to let you in and have a tour. I challenge you. If they're not letting you do that, I would personally be having red flags. For us, come on down. We'll let you in the vault. We'll let you take a look. We'll let you see how things are how we operate. But again, if I were in the US, I'd have a hard time with that. But after being here for so long and knowing how it works, 100%, I'm fine. I would be fine with it. And as I was saying, guys come here, 2, 3 days they go in the vault, that they're convinced. They not only visit our vault, they visit other vaults, and they tell us, we visited this company's vault. No comparison. Or I shouldn't say they couldn't visit the vault. What they did was they only could see maybe like a side room or something like that. Let me back up on it. There's no comparison, because if you're not going to let them in, how can you compare? There's no comparison. Whereas we let them in, and there you go. They see exactly how everything is stored, how we operate. They see that they do fully own it. They see that what they have can never be mixed up as inventory and resold. And that's something you all got to know about. And they see that, again, it's complete ownership. It's really complete ownership. So, it's, again, since I'm here now and I see it, I'm okay with it. And I would be okay with it, even if I were back in the States. Let's see. More of your questions here. Butchie Harding, I have a radio. Okay. Dark Helmet. Bitcoin is mainly crashing because of a Chinese scam coin stole. Crypto. Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful with crypto. Let's see. Ralph Steiner, I'm actually 100% safe. ATM, I am just sitting in the bleachers watching the circus today. And what a show it is, the modern day Rome, bread, and circuses. Ralph Steiner, yeah. I tell you what, those bread and circuses might not be around for much more. I mean, I think you're going to have sports teams and whatnot. They're going to start to you know start to maybe not play games, not play as many games. You know, they got to travel. They're going to have to hop in a plane. I'm not sure people really want to hop in a plane right now, and that's why we're seeing numbers go down. So I think when you're going to see even sports teams start to shut down a little bit, possibly, and some of those bread and circuses are going to disappear, and people aren't going to have as many things to stay preoccupied with, and then they're going to wake up and see all exactly what's going on. So it's a good point there. Lucky for you, you're on the bleachers watching. Just cheer for us, right? We're still in this game trying to get through it. Um, let's see. Rolf Steiner again. I lost 40K in 2008-09. Um, Rolf, I lost as well. Not in 2008-09. What I lost was in 9/11, and what I lost a lot of was my 401k, which is why I'm really adamant about getting you guys to understand what can happen with your 401k. So I know what it is like to lose and then have to try and recover again. Um, okay, so anyway, geez, there's been a lot of bad news going on, right? Um, I just want to give some hope. Virus is here. People are unsure, uncertain, scared, fearful. We were the number two country, Singapore. We were number two as far as cases outside of China. We went through it. We still going through it in some ways, but things have gotten more reasonable. And I just want to share with you that it can be controlled. It can be contained. There is hope, for sure. There is hope. So just want to take a pause where enough of wealth and onto health. And again, I want to share what Singapore is doing because a lot of the rest of the world, you guys are going through it right now. And we've been through it here, as I said, and we're finding some success. Singapore is actually finding some success in handling and managing the virus. In the beginning, it was ugly. It was ugly. People hoarding masks, rice, instant noodles, luncheon meats, canned foods, yes, toilet paper, and I see these same things going on other places in the world. These same things that we had that we gone through, that we had been through, and it can be disheartening. You wonder what's going on, and you see people who have money, and like in Singapore, a lot of people do have money, and things get snapped up off the shelf really, really quickly. In other places, it's just the population. Maybe people may not be wealthy, but there's a lot of people, and a lot of people, they end up decreasing the volume of or decreasing the supply of things. So, things can get snapped up pretty quickly. But the way to get through it is transparency and community. These two things have to go hand in hand. Your government has to be transparent, and I don't know if we're seeing that. Okay, government has to be transparent, and you have to have sense of community. And it can be tough. It can be hard when things are moving at a frantic pace. People are in a frenzy. Here, the government raised the level to orange. On top of that, it would have only been red. And by the time it gets to red, that basically means, stay home. If you can stay home and work, stay home and work. Just essentials will go on. But by moving it to orange, what they did was people became more aware. And, that was key. More aware, not to a point where you're panicking, but you're just more aware. There's things you can do. There's things you shouldn't do. Try to be more mindful of what you're doing, things like that. And going into buildings, you would get checked. Your temperature will get checked, making sure you don't have a fever and whatnot. Fever is one symptom, they say. But, fevers may not, you could be carrying it and you may not have a fever, but at least something was put in place. And in our building where we work, there are hand sanitizers. They installed hand sanitizers when you get out of the elevator. In fact, on the elevator, the buttons, there's like a plastic membrane. So when you touch the buttons, you're actually touching this plastic membrane. I don't know if it's some antibacterial type of thing, but these membranes are peeled off and replaced every so often. So there's a new membrane again, and then you get out of the elevator and there's a hand sanitizer right there. So you go and wash your hands. So those are some things they do. Um, Government even issued some masks to households. So every household had, I think, they gave them a certain number of masks. So we even had masks as well. And then there's a website, MOH Ministry of Health .gov or gov.sg, and this website is great where you can log in, you can see what new cases are happening, and you can track them. They don't give you the person's name, but they can tell you where they were, and then if they were related to someone else, like maybe case 100 had a relation to case 72, maybe meaning they were at the same place or same location. So then that starts to identify if maybe there's a cluster here or a cluster there. And if you don't see the clusters, then okay, maybe it's not so bad. If you see the clusters, then okay, maybe we'll stay away from that area for a while. So transparency, you have to have it. You have to have the transparency, and you have to have a bit of that community where um, once you know you're okay, then you can help other people to be okay. Goes back into be a blessing, not a burden. People are going to need help. Be that guy that can help. So these were a few of the things, along with picking up the hospital bill. Government came out and said if you have CV virus, they'll pay for it. Okay, they will pay for it. So what this did, it encouraged people to go and get checked. If you're not feeling well, go ahead and get checked. Don't worry about the money. And I know a lot of times, we live paycheck to paycheck. We're concerned, I'm going to miss work. How am I going to get paid? This and that, this and that. So government, they're issuing plans to go ahead and help with these things. The main point is, if you think you might have something, then yes, get checked, because the last thing you want is oh, I gotta go to work. I need to make money today. I need to pay this bill, that bill, and then next thing you know, you fall ill, and other people, your one self may have just put 5, 10, 20 people in that same situation. So if you feel ill, get checked. And in Singapore's case, government came out and said they'll pay. They will pay for that. So that was a good thing. That was a very good thing. Although granted, Singapore's a little bit of a different situation where, the coronavirus response, it is more or less has been managed, contained a bit. But the strategy here is it is hard to replicate, because Singapore has a different set of circumstances. So as the novel coronavirus starts to gather speed in Europe, Middle East, and the US, there's one place seemingly where it's being contained, and that's Singapore, which was one of the first countries outside of China to start getting infections. With no reported virus deaths, this is true. Despite 96, we're over 100 cases now, and a slowing rate of infection, that is true. It's been outpaced by recoveries, and that's true again. More people are recovering, and they're leaving more than people are actually being infected. So it's starting to turn the corner. The Asian city-state is emerging as a litmus test of whether the deadly pathogen can be, if not contained, then neutralized. The answer is maybe. So here's your hope. The answer is maybe, and perhaps only with the unique combination of factors that Singapore brings: top-notch health system, draconian tracing. This part is a little bit true, where people were really grilled as to where they went, who they contacted, and to tell the truth, because this is something that needs to be taken care of, and to help containment measures, and a small population that's largely accepting of the government's expansive orders. Few other countries battling an outbreak that's now infected more than 83. Well, I think we're heading to 100,000 already. So anyway, Singapore's tally of cases is still inching up. It's very small numbers, but it's no longer the worst hit nation outside of China, after South Korea saw an over 30-fold increase in a week, Italy with at least 650. So these numbers are a bit dated, but fundamentally, it's telling you things that you can do or government should do, and there is hope that you can come out of this. We all will come out of this. There seems to be more of a willingness to place the community and society needs over individual liberty. And this is the part of it where, you know, sometimes it's tough where some people may feel like, you're being infringed on your freedoms, your liberties, and whatnot. And, it can be true. It is true. It is true to a point. But, you know, sometimes the community and society needs, sometimes they do overtake the individual, what the individual wants. And, it's up to each individual person how they feel about this. I'm just saying in Singapore's case, people understood. It's a small island. It's it's densely populated, and there are things that we need to do to just get through it. That's all it is. Just get through it to help in a public crisis, and don't hesitate. From the start, Singapore was aggressive out of the gate, and it still is. It's one of the first countries to impose restrictions on anyone with recent travel history to China and parts of South Korea. It has a strict hospital and home quarantine regimen for potentially infected patients and is extensively tracing anyone that may have been contacted with. It's even charging a couple who gave false information on their travel history and taking away residency status from a person who breached his quarantine among punitive actions. So this guy actually tried to leave, get on a plane and leave. And so he lost his right to stay here, his residency status. So Singapore will not hesitate to take strong action against rule breakers. The law minister said, and the deliberate breaking of rules in the current situation calls for swift and decisive response. So, there are things that they do change a little bit, but again, you'll get through it. We will all get through it. Transparency, community, we're going to get through these things. I just want to take a look at the comments. Let's see. Rolf Steiner, but without people taking on enough debt to kill a herd of them. Okay, we're still on economics here. Two strains in the outbreak, L and S. I got to look into that. I've been seeing something about different strains also. Let's see. Okay. You're too close to the red giant. It's think of Switzerland. I think Switzerland is it Swiss? No, I know geographically there are countries that are just as close to a good guy as they are a bad guy, and that's the way some people see it. But geographically, they're split in the middle, and it 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 depends how you see things, or maybe which which side of the fence you're on. But Singapore it's very independent. I mean, of course, it has an ear to the west, it has an ear to the east, but it's gonna make its own decisions. It's always made its own decisions. So geographically, that's one thing, but the way it operates and works, extremely independent. It's going to do what it needs to do for Singapore, and that's just how it is. It's not gonna follow in line with what the best interests of our this nation, or what the best interests are of that nation. It's going to do what it needs to do. So anyway, let's see. Quarantining in the USA will not work. We are too soft. Jan or Jan, Jan or Jan. I'm going to say Jan. I hate to say it, but I don't think you may have a choice. I think if it push comes to shove, places will be quarantined. But it's happening all over the world, and I don't think the U.S. is any different in this case. It's going to be a tough call. It's something that we're not used to. I totally agree. Aggressiveness is what saved Singapore. RR. Well, it's what's helping. For sure. Things we've gone through it, the same like what everybody's going through now. The panic, the hoarding, all of these things. We've gone through it. and then it starts to taper off, and it started to taper off again because of that transparency and that community. You got to come together. It's really the only way. You have to do it, and then we'll get through it, and then we'll see where things are, and I think we'll all be a better person for it. That's my hope anyway. But the sad thing is, within this virus, I tell you what, you are seeing a whole lot of racial tendencies coming out, and I'll I'm going to go through an article. There's a picture on it. Might not be nice, so I'll just let you guys. I'll count to three, let you turn away, and then I'll let you know when that photo is gone. So but it needs to be said because these things are going to happen. So go ahead and turn away before I put this up there. One, two, three. Okay, so this is article, unfortunately, about a young man in Singapore. He's a student. He was in London and he was assaulted. Why? Because he's Chinese. Okay, that photo's gone. So if you want to look back, you can look back again. Okay, so Singaporean student in London said he was assaulted after he reacted to passersby who were making comments about his race and COVID-19. He was walking along Oxford Street in London in Feb when he heard a racist comment and the word coronavirus from some youths, and there was a altercation, and basically it was because there's that stigma of it came from China. Chinese are causing this thing here and there, and you know racism comes into play, and it's sad, it's unfortunate, but this is the other thing. I don't like talking about it, but it needs to be said because this is another part of the virus, an ugly part that's starting to come out. We got enough things to worry about and deal with besides, maybe someone's personal feelings trying to blame this thing on a race or whatever it is. I mean, it's got really nothing to do with it at this point. I mean, Italy's in trouble. They're getting hit quite a bit. U.S. is getting hit quite a bit. Everywhere in the world is getting hit, quite a bit, and you can't necessarily blame one guy. We still don't even know the true root cause of how this thing started, and there's a lot of theories out there how it really got started. So, it just happened to come from one country, but it doesn't mean that you can, really start having hatred for some guy that lives in your country who's maybe even never even been to China, but just because he has that look, you're gonna blame him. So I don't like talking about it, but it's something that let's just get that out of our heads, because people you see in your country, they may have lived their whole life in your country. Okay, they may have never even been to China. So let's just get that out of our head. We don't know, so just the racist part, I do hope that kind of squashes on its own. Like I say, somebody could have lived in your country their whole life, and just because they look a certain way, you're gonna be angry at them. It doesn't work like that, guys. That's we got to be better than that, right? I mean, there's enough going on, and I just want to share one more story with you about this lady, expat who's in South Korea. She talks about yes, racism is a virus. Chuck Bilhano, there you go. She talks about her being an expat and she's in Korea, living amid a virus outbreak, where she says she feels like she's in the end times, and we I think a lot of us kind of felt that way also in Singapore. We were really afraid, but she says she's a 25-year-old American woman teaching at a private academy in Seoul. Like thousands of foreigners, I use my weekends to travel the country or go abroad for the last few weeks instead of living the expat dream. I'm living near the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. She says her life has changed drastically since the outbreak. At first, it was just that story coming out of China, and people were a little bit anxious. And then a few weeks later, she feels like she's living in the end times. When the news first broke, she wasn't afraid, but things felt strange. So some of the things that she would say, that she has to say actually, where she says her students taught me the proper way to secure a seal in my mask because they worry I won't be okay without family and soul. Restaurants restaurants began posting signs that read no Chinese. So again, you can see where this whole frenzy of it being a racial thing. I tell you what, that virus is not going to care what race you are. So, like I said, just get that thought. Let's all just get that thought out of our heads. Within a week, the number of cases began to rise. There were no masks to be found in Seoul. Same, we went through that. I think you guys are experiencing that. And she asked her family to buy some and ship them. But now there's a worldwide shortage, and those reports in Seoul are apparently much different than the reports in the U.S. So she asked her family if they were worried, and but they don't think it's a big deal. February 10, start taking everyone's temperature, which is what I was saying also here. And yep, I tell you what, coughing, sneezing, when you hear these things, you start to wonder, does this person have it? Does that person, are they a carrier? And the economy started to decline. Even in Singapore, they're worried about their tourism numbers, but going to get through it. And the good thing, like I was saying, they're going to pay for people, if they're sick and whatnot. And what they're using to pay for it are the actual government reserves. The government has reserves. It was money from the people that's going to be used for the people. They're not going to go out and print money and things like that. They already have it that they held in reserves. So that's another plus in how they're handling these things. And she says, it ramped up and some people stopped attending classes. We began wiping down the desk and door handles with bleach after every class. I know for myself, I use a handkerchief every time I have to grab onto a railing in the bus or a handle in public transport. She says she was on high alert, but not yet fearful, as she felt her employer and authorities were taking the right steps. And again, that's the key. That's the key, where you have to have trust, belief, faith that your government's going to do the right thing, that the transparency is there, that community is there, that you guys will get through it together. So, what we went through, she was saying she went through also the same things in South Korea, and same things people in the US, Europe, going to go through it as well. But you will get through it. It can be managed, it can be contained. You're going to get through it. There's more than hope. There's a lot more than hope. So don't let the fear get to you too much. Okay, I know it's tough. You're getting bombarded with all of these different news, but you take care of yourself. That's the number one thing. Take care of yourself. That enables you to take care of other people. You take care of yourself, you hopefully won't give it to anyone. You can continue doing what you need to do to be the protector, the provider, the comforter, whatever it is. You can continue doing these things. So it's not the end. It's not the end of the world. Um, you know, it's probably the Fed and the banks are more worrying than the virus. Not to make light of the virus. Virus is something we got to look at, but we need to pay attention to so many things. So I'll leave with this commentary and then take a few more questions. It needs to be said again, there is hope. We will all get through this and we will get through it together. We're going to get through it together, okay? We will. We can control our health and safety when it comes to the virus. Central banks, as I was saying, they're another story. We can't control them. These guys are looking to control us. And there's a Faber laugh, right? So as much as you do your part to stay safe from the virus, you also need to do your part to keep the health of your wealth. And we touched on this. You know what I'm going to say? Take the time to learn about gold and silver beyond the price. Everybody's price fixated, right? Price, of course, plays a role, but if you know gold and silver, there's a whole lot more to it than just price. These two metals are stores of value, and just call it your N95 mask, when it comes to wealth protection. And so let's take a look at a few more comments here. Fear is the soul killer. Amen. Absolutely, it is. Let's see. Ralph Steiner, I'll just buy 10K worth of gold and then that's it. I would love to say yes, but truth is there's still other things that you got to get. The gold is your wealth protection. It's going to help you get through that transition from where we are to where things are going to. That's the gold. That's what you need the gold for, the silver for. Woodshey Harding, exactly, my friend. The only thing you can control is what you allow in your life. Okay, it's what you allow in your life. Collected Chronicles, get Palladium. Palladium's doing well, but the one issue I have with Palladium is when I talk to guys and I ask them why is the price going up? Why is the price going up? They consistently tell me because of catalytic converters, and I'm thinking, can't be. Cars aren't being produced as much. Numbers are down. Why would Palladium go up? And not to mention, even with governments and trying to push in electric vehicles, they don't have catalytic converters. So I don't buy the catalytic converter fundamental as to why Palladium's going up. Something else is going on. Can't quite put a finger on it and 100% feel confident with an answer that I give or an answer that I hear. So something is very, very different with it. Okay, sit back and watch the Fed go crazy with QE5. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we're already there. We just, it's just such a slow roll right now. It's just a slow drop where you don't notice things too much. But I think it's there. I mean, if the Fed cuts rates like we talked about in the beginning, they're effective or essentially going to be right about at zero already. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We would be at zero and there's nowhere else to go but negative. And who knows what they're going to do after that, right? Come into the market, buy stocks. I mean, Japanification, is that where we're headed? Certain people going to win, some people going to win, some going to lose. Can't let that happen. It's not really the way to go or where we want to be. Jan, or love your friends and family. Absolutely, Jan. Love them. You have to love them. Okay, Palladium isn't very liquid for the average person. Can be true, depending on where you live. It may or may not be true. But the stigma with Palladium, even platinum, is just that it doesn't have the history of being a monetary metal. So that's the one slowdown or drawback for guys to actually get into those metals. Rarity argument, yeah, it is rare. So we can go with that for sure. Only gold is money, and to some extent silver. Yeah, it's historically silver's been money more than gold has, but they've kind of reversed the roles, and we'll see where it goes. But I do think both are going to have a place to be in this upcoming times here. So I just want to take a look one more time at the what the price is for the futures market anyway. I want to take a look at oil, see where it's at, if it's still in that 30 range. And we're going down. Crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, 30.69 a barrel. If this gets in the 20s or in the teens, things are going to be challenging. I just said have hope, right? Okay, so have hope. We'll have some challenges, but we're going to have hope also, right? Gold still doing okay, 1696, hanging around that 1700 level. Silver 1717, so that ratio must be getting close to 100 now. Wow. So where are we at? Okay, 98.3. Okay, we're at 98.3. So actually it's come down a bit. So still hanging in there. Okay, so again, I just want to thank you guys for being here. I ran over. Almost forgot it was daylight savings time. Almost missed it here. Came in late. Let's see. Silver was money before gold, by the way. Yeah, actually it was. Rhodium's doing pretty well also. Okay. Jan or don't cry. Yeah. Yeah, don't cry. The only thing we have or the only thing we have control over is how we choose to live our lives. We cannot control the affairs of the world. It's true. It's true. But we, if enough of us choose to live virtuous lives, society will rebound. It's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to look at it. You just need to be the best person you can. Be just try and be right. Be if you can. Try and be as morally right as you can. Everybody's ethics and morals are different, but if everybody you know kept that as a compass, then yeah, we'll do okay. We'll all be okay. I think we're all gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm Apple Tassi. I saw you, Mr. Fanny Pack. Okay, so but that's it. I better get out of here. Probably boring you guys to death right now, but I'll get out of here. Make sure you take care of each other. Stay as healthy as you can. Get what you need. And you'll get through it. You will get through it, and it doesn't help to say a prayer or two, and say one for me, and I'll say one for you. So with that, I'll see you guys next week, God willing, and till then, saddle up for what's coming ahead, because we may have to get on that horse and giddy up and go, and silver up as well. So you want to make sure you have that silver. You want to make sure you have that gold. So I'll see you guys next week. You guys take care of each other. Be a blessing, not a burden. Take care.